Hey, what's going on, everyone? First off, the biggest and probably most noticeable thing is how carnivores behave now. Frontier clearly tweaked how these guys react to guests, and the difference is immediate. Medium and large carnivores now terrorize much faster when they get close to visitors. Before, there was this tiny grace period. That moment where a T Rex would just kind of stand there, stare at the crowd, maybe roar for effect before actually causing panic. Yeah, that's gone. Now, as soon as they have a path to humans, it's pure chaos. The panic meter skyrockets almost instantly, and that means guest injuries, lawsuits, and a major hit to your park rating if you're not prepared. I actually tested it by opening up one of my old parks that I knew had a risky fence placement near a viewing gallery. Within seconds of a velociraptor escaping, every nearby guest was screaming and bolting. It was honestly kind of hilarious, but it also showed me just how much faster the reaction time is now. This might sound like just a small behavioral tweak, but it has a huge ripple effect on how you manage your park layout. If you've been someone who likes to keep guests as close to the action as possible, those narrow walkways right along the enclosure fences, you might want to rethink that strategy. You'll probably need to add some buffer zones now, maybe extra decorative space, more trees, or even a second layer of fencing just for safety. And if you're the type who loves creating those cinematic chaos moments, oh yeah, this update basically turned the dial up for you. It feels more cinematic now when a predator breaks loose. Guests panic faster, the camera shakes more dramatically, and you really feel the weight of losing control. Now, another thing that's quietly gotten better, but makes a massive difference over time, is the routing improvements. You might have noticed before that sometimes your guests or even your vehicles would get stuck or take ridiculously weird paths that make no sense. They'd walk into dead ends or just endlessly loop around the same building like they were lost in a maze. That's been noticeably improved. Frontier reworked how guests, vehicles, and dinosaurs calculate their paths, and it's one of those quality of life changes that you don't really notice right away until you realize everything just feels smoother. In my sandbox parks, I used to have this issue where my Ranger Jeeps would try to reach a dinosaur enclosure on the opposite side of the park, and instead of taking the main route, they'd take some random detour through a cluster of amenities and end up stuck in guest traffic. That's not happening anymore. They move more logically now, sticking to main roads and clear routes. The same goes for guests, less wandering into weird corners or clumping up in awkward intersections. It's not perfect, but it's a big step up, and it makes your park feel a lot more alive and believable. And speaking of vehicles, I also noticed that response times for ranger teams and medical units feel tighter. I don't know if Frontier adjusted that under the hood, but combined with the routing fix, they seem to get to problems quicker. When a dinosaur gets sick or agitated, the whole system feels smoother. You don't have that frustration of your rangers taking the scenic route while your dinosaurs destroy half your fences. So yeah, it's subtle, but it makes the game more efficient and less frustrating, which is a win in my book. Now let's talk about stability, because honestly, this is where Update 1.4 shines the most for people who've been playing since launch day. A lot of players, myself included, ran into issues where the game would crash when restarting a failed park in campaign mode. Like, you'd lose a park, hit restart, and boom, straight to desktop. It wasn't consistent, but it happened enough to be annoying. That's been fixed. I tested it a few times myself, restarted a few scenarios that previously gave me trouble, and everything loaded perfectly fine. There was also a crash bug related to the Montana level, which is one of the more demanding environments in the game. That's also been addressed. No more random crashes when you're just trying to load your save or replay that level. So overall, much smoother. The stability improvements make a big difference, especially if you're someone who likes to push the limits with big parks. You can now build more confidently without worrying that the game's going to freak out the moment you expand your guest area or place a bunch of decorations. And that's kind of what I like about this update. It's not flashy, but it's foundational. It's making the game more reliable, more consistent, and that's exactly what a game like this needs early in its life. Now, here's something interesting about the timing of this update. Jurassic World Evolution 3 just launched on October 21st, and this patch hit almost immediately after. It's essentially the first major stability and balance update since launch, and you can tell it's Frontier reacting fast to player feedback. What's even more impressive is that they followed it up with another small patch the next day, 1.0.5, to fix additional workshop and crash issues. So clearly, they're listening to the community and moving quickly. But since we're focusing on 1.0.4, I think it's safe to say this one sets the tone for what's to come. Now, one thing I've noticed people asking about online is how this update affects sandbox mode specifically. And honestly, that's where I've had the most fun testing it. With carnivores being more aggressive toward guests, it changes the whole vibe of how you design your park's safety systems. Before, you could kind of get away with building fancy open walkways that looked great but weren't super practical. Now you have to think more like an actual park manager. You need layered defense, fencing, ranger patrols, and evacuation paths that actually work. You'll quickly realize how important the new routing improvements are when you trigger an emergency evacuation. Guests actually move smarter now, so instead of clustering up at a single exit, they spread out more evenly, which not only looks more natural but helps reduce the chaos level during an attack. There's also an unspoken benefit to all these AI and routing improvements. The game feels more alive. When guests actually move like real people and vehicles respond intelligently, it adds immersion. You start noticing the flow of the park more, the way guests gather near hotspots, how traffic patterns develop, and how your park layout affects everything from profit to panic. It makes the simulation feel more real and less like a bunch of predictable scripts running in the background. And that's kind of the heart of this update. It's all about tightening up the little details that make Jurassic World Evolution 3 feel more believable. It's not introducing new dinosaurs or flashy fears or major DLC content yet. Instead, it's the type of patch that lays the groundwork for everything that'll come later. If you've been around since the first game or even Evolution 2, you know how Frontier likes to build things up. They start with a strong foundation and then gradually layer in bigger systems and content packs. So this update feels like the calm before that big wave of content drops. One thing I've also been thinking about is how the terrorizing change actually helps balance the game for campaign players. In earlier builds, it was sometimes too easy to recover from a breakout. You could have a large predator loose for a full minute before guests even started panicking seriously. And by that time, you'd already tranquilized the dinosaur and repaired the fence. It didn't really feel like there was much risk involved. Now, that risk is back. One mistake, one power outage, one sabotage, one poorly placed fence, and you can lose a star rating fast. And that's good. It keeps you on edge. It makes security and park design matter again. You can't just rely on high comfort ratings to keep everyone safe. You have to think about containment logistics and emergency preparedness too. When you think about it, that's kind of what makes Jurassic World Evolution 3 so addictive. It's not just about building a pretty park, it's about managing the chaos, balancing beauty and danger. And this update amplifies that feeling. You can tell the developers wanted the dinosaurs to feel more unpredictable and the guests to react more realistically. When things go wrong now, it feels like a genuine disaster moment. The way guests scatter, the sound design, the speed of the chaos, it's a rush. I'll be honest, I actually spent an hour just testing different carnivore behaviors after this update. I let a T-Rex loose in a high population park, then tried the same thing with a pack of raptors. The difference between species behavior is more pronounced now. The Rex tends to go straight for the biggest crowd, while the raptors split off and start causing multiple panic zones at once. It's way more dynamic, and it's going to make for some really entertaining gameplay moments, especially if you're recording content or streaming. So yeah, version 1.0.4 might not sound huge on paper, but when you actually play it, you realize it touches almost every part of the game experience: behavior, routing, performance, and stability. It's like Frontier took a look at everything that felt a little clunky or off during launch week and just cleaned it up. And that's exactly what a live game needs right now. If you haven't played since launch day, this is the perfect time to jump back in. The performance feels smoother, the chaos feels sharper, and the parks feel more alive. And if you're new, trust me, starting now is actually ideal because you're getting a much more polished experience than those of us who jumped in on day one. Overall, Jurassic World Evolution 3 continues to show that Frontier knows how to build on feedback quickly. This update is a clear statement that they're committed to refining the experience, not just throwing new dinosaurs at us. And honestly, that gives me a lot of confidence for the future of this game. The foundation feels solid now, and with the next few patches, we'll probably start seeing some real content expansions that make things even wilder. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I've noticed so far with update 1.0.4. It's faster, it's smarter, and it's more stable. And that's exactly what we want in a management sim like this. If you've been on the fence about returning to your park, give it another shot. Test those fences, watch those rangers hustle, and maybe, just maybe, keep an extra emergency bunker close to the T-Rex enclosure. You're probably going to need it. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this one. If you've noticed anything else interesting or weird after this patch, let me know down in the comments. I always love reading your experiences because everyone's parks are so different. Thanks for hanging out with me, and as always, keep those dinosaurs happy and those fences strong. I'll catch you in the next one.